365 days. An entire year. That is the amount of time that I spent trying to improve my art as much as I could. I studied everything starting from the basics and did as many illustrations that I could throughout the year. I wanted to see how much I could improve if I drew every day for a whole year. Everything from proportion and anatomy to perspective and form, as well as color and light. In this video, I'll go over the different types of studies that I did, as well as go through some of the art that I made throughout the year, and talk about everything that I learned. The first thing that I wanted to get better at was anatomy and proportion. To practice anatomy, I did a combination of studying from references, doing croquis, as well as going deeper through the topic with multiple anatomy books to study each of the individual parts. You can go through Pinterest and study from the photos that you like there, or go to another site such as Line of Action and practice doing timed croquis there. For me personally, studying with references and referring back to the anatomy books is what I think helped my anatomy the most. You might think that studying from real life won't help with drawing anime, but it's one of the most important things to do, even if you are like me and only want to draw anime characters. Between real life and anime, the main difference between the two is mainly with the head. The rest of the body parts line up closely with regular human anatomy, which is why it's so crucial to understand both. Proportions are something that go hand in hand with anatomy, which is the reason why it's also so important to properly learn and study. A longer head with smaller eyes will make the character look more mature, while a smaller head with bigger eyes will do the opposite. Specifically for anime, I think it's a good idea to study the proportions of the style and artist that you like the most. For example, something like Frieren will look completely different from something from Bocchi, The Rock. Although they are both animes, you can see a big difference between their art styles. Breaking down the styles you like the most is the easiest and most efficient way to get better at drawing in the styles that you like. Hopefully this is a bit self-explanatory, but look at the differences between the head shape and everything that is placed in between them. From the eyes to the nose, the mouth, and even ears, these all drastically change the style of each character. The next thing that I worked on was perspective and form. I studied both of them at the same time as they go hand in hand in making your art look more three-dimensional. I studied them by drawing a bunch of 3D shapes from a bunch of different angles and perspectives. I think the shapes that you should focus on are cubes, cuboids, cylinders, and spheres, as these are the building blocks for most shapes out there. After you get these shapes down, you can start to break down everything around you, such as architecture, furniture, plants, and even anatomy. Doing these studies of shapes will help you when you want to draw characters in perspective, in backgrounds, or in general with understanding where to place objects. Just placing your characters in a cuboid like this will help a lot with having the right perspective, and will also help you later on if you ever decide that you want to try adding some foreshortening to your characters. Getting better at these will also help with making your art look less flat and to start looking a lot more dynamic. Having a basic understanding of perspective will help a lot if you ever decide to draw backgrounds for your characters, as having the right perspective will just do so much more to add more realism to the things that you draw. Take for example this drawing that I did with these bookshelves. In the first one that I drew, everything looks flat and the character blends in with the background too much. But in the next one that I drew, it looks completely different. The whole illustration is much more dynamic and just makes the piece much more interesting. After that, I started working on getting better at composition, base, and shape. Composition is something that is so simple to learn and helps a lot with making your art look more interesting. I think the best way to learn composition is to honestly just watch a bunch of shows or movies that you like. While watching these shows, take note of what types of compositions that you see and why you like them. Some of the most common ones that you will see a lot in film and media are the rule of thirds, golden ratio, and the golden triangle. Look at the ways they use positive and negative shapes in their scenes to frame their characters, and use that information to build your own compositions. Having good positive and negative space will do a lot to bring your characters out of whatever scene you want to place them in. In most artworks, you want your character to be in the positive space and the background to be in the negative space. This will bring more attention to your character and make them stand out more from the rest of the things that you draw. Shape language is something that you can also look into, as it also ties into these other points. Round shapes look friendlier, while things like triangles will do the opposite. The direction and angle of shapes will also matter. A triangle that looks like this will look more balanced, while an upside down one will do the opposite, making it much more unbalanced. This can create more dynamic compositions and make your art look much more interesting. The final thing that I worked on getting better at was color, light, and value. Studying colors from photos and illustrations that I like was the easiest way for me to get better at picking colors for my own drawings. Color is something that I think is the most subjective in art, so it's something that you have to build up for your own personal taste. If you don't know what colors to choose from, you can honestly just go in with a color picker and look at what colors your favorite artists are using. Every artist that you see will have their own kind of palette, depending on their preferences. So it's up to you to learn about the colors that you like. Light is something that's a bit harder to study, but the best way to study that is to look at references, whether they are from photos, illustrations, or just from shows. Looking at the lighting and trying to understand why they are the way that they are will help you for when you want to draw lighting for your own illustrations. Value is something that I also learned alongside color and light. With value, you can have more contrast and in turn have more control over where you want your viewers to look. These three things all work together, so studying them all is very important if you want to get better. One of the biggest goals that I had this year was to start drawing more backgrounds. I studied backgrounds from photos, as well as in-game scenes from my favorite video games. This is also the time where I started experimenting with photo bashing as well. Photo bashing is something that I have been wanting to try for a while, but never had the courage to give it a go. My first ever attempts weren't that great, but over time I started to get better at them slowly. Around the end of the year, I think I started to get a lot better at them, and started to incorporate them into a lot of my drawings. I think if you're just starting off with drawing backgrounds, then photo bashing is one of the easiest ways to get started. In newer animes, it's something that is being used a lot more, and I've been seeing a lot of artists that use it in their art to great effect, so don't be afraid to give it a try. Another one of my goals for this year was to get faster at drawing. In the past, drawing an entire illustration would take me multiple days. Things that I should have been able to draw in a couple of hours just took way longer than I wanted them to. During the year, I challenged myself to complete the 100-day illustration challenge by Magoon, and I think that it was one of the biggest contributors to what helped me speed up my workflow. Being forced to complete an illustration every day forced me to get faster at making illustrations. I learned how to use every shortcut that I could to speed up my art, and learned to stop caring as much when looking at tiny details or mistakes that nobody else would notice. There were a lot of times during the challenge where I thought I would quit, but I stuck through with it and came out being able to draw things 2 or even 3 times as fast as what I normally would. If you want to get faster at art, then doing a challenge like this will greatly speed up your workflow at the cost of your sanity. I started this channel to document everything that I worked on throughout the year. I wanted my channel to showcase all of the things that go on behind the scenes whenever you see art being posted online. Whether it was the studies that I had done, artworks that I had created, or just new things that I had learned. I wanted to document the work that goes into every piece of art that I made, that most people wouldn't usually show. When I first started the channel, I was in a hard spot where I didn't know if it was worth to continue drawing anymore. Knowing where I am now, I think that it was one of the best decisions that I have ever made. I learned about so many different things, tried things that I've always wanted to try before but never had the chance to. Learning how to draw backgrounds, making my own custom brushes and gradient maps, learning how to stream on Twitch, learning how to make emotes, learning how to record and edit videos, making live 2D animations, and even making an entire VTuber model. I met so many friends and met so many people that I never would have if I had never started this channel, and will be forever grateful for that. I will keep trying to improve as much as I can for the next year, and keep trying to post more videos about the things that I learn. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video. Bye bye.